listeners. Before we start, we want to just give a moment of silence to start us off. If you see to my left, we have this banner. These are the names of the Shuhada of Gaza this year, and I have to check what month, but this was early in the year, probably November, maybe December. Since then, it's been January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and now August. And the names keep piling up and the deaths keep piling up. So let's please start off with a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you, everyone. So for today's gathering, we try to center the community. So I'll be inviting different members of our community to share, whether it's things that they've written or thoughts that they've had, and then we will end with a community dua and prayer for our martyrs. So to start us off, I'd like to call our Pacific Engagement and Advocacy Manager, Halima Twam, to share a few words on how we can take action for the community.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today as we honor our martyrs. I know that a lot of the people in our community have been feeling a lot of anger and grief on a day-to-day basis. And as an organizer, we always say that unfortunately the world doesn't pause or stop to allow us to do the work that we need to do to create liberation. And my job is to help our community strengthen our ties to one another and to help educate our community on how we can organize and work together to pressure our officials to meet our community needs. So on this Friday at 6:30, we'll be having a town hall where we'll be discussing the needs of our community and learning organizing skills. It'll be the first of a series of town halls where we'll develop skills and continue to check in with the community so that as we hold our legislative meetings that we've been having, we can voice the concerns of our community together under one unified voice. So I invite you to join us at that town hall. We will also have childcare and translation there as well. And then there will be a separate town hall on the 15th for our students, so middle schoolers and high schoolers, because they need to be heard as well, so that we can make sure that we're holding our schools accountable and keeping our kids seen and safe as well. So please join us, keep an eye on the events that we're having in terms of civic engagement and all the programming that we do. And thank you again, and I very much look forward to building these relationships with everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you, Halima. This week marks 300 days of genocide in Gaza and heightened violence across Palestine. Our brothers and sisters in Palestine have marked tomorrow, August 3rd, as a day of solidarity for all of us, for the people in Gaza and for our Palestinian political prisoners. It's been an excruciatingly heavy week for everyone. For 300 days now, the Zionist state of Israel has waged a violent and devastating genocidal campaign against the Palestinian people. In the West Bank, Palestinians are confronted with increasing checkpoints, Israeli military soldiers, and the encroachment of settlers. These settlers are enabled and emboldened by the military and continue to burn Palestinian land and launch brutal attacks on all Palestinians. Meanwhile, Palestinians within the 1948 borders of Israel can't even express sympathy with their brothers and sisters in Gaza because they're afraid of wrongful imprisonment and violence enacted upon them. Since the start of the current genocide, the number of Palestinians wrongfully and illegally detained has risen to over 9,500. While the targeting encompasses all Palestinians, the people of Gaza have bared the heaviest burden of Israel's relentless assault. Despite the lower official numbers reported by the health ministry, approximately 40,000, the Lancet report recently published that the actual death toll is probably closer to 186,000. Palestinians in Gaza have been ruthlessly targeted, whether it's by airstrikes, by snipers from military, from being trapped under the rubble, from faulty airdrops, from starvation, and from disease. We have been witnessing beheaded bodies, and that's becoming a norm. Healthcare workers, those responsible for treating the injured, as well as emergency aid and aid workers have all been deliberate targets. Israel systematically attacks Palestinians and every aspect of Palestinian life in an attempt to ethnically cleanse the Palestinian people and seize their homeland. Journalists have been systematically targeted and killed simply for exposing the truth. Up to 166 Palestinian journalists from Gaza have been killed by Israel this year while reporting the reality of their situation. Many Palestinians have been thrown into illegal Israeli jails, notorious for their torturous conditions, to face unimaginable suffering and violence, and then have been sent back to Gaza to either starve, watch their families starve, or await the targeting and killing by bombs or snipers again. Israeli Knesset members have openly advocated for the assault of Palestinians and the dehumanizations of Palestinians. Yet, despite all of these atrocities, the resolve and the will of the Palestinian people remains unshaken and unwavering. It has been a tragic and grueling 300 days. I ask people, how are you feeling? And no one knows what to even say. However, what we have witnessed for just under a year now, the Palestinian people have endured for decades. The violent displacement of Palestinians began long before 1948. But we are determined in joining them in their fight for justice and advocating for an end to the current genocide, a lasting end to the illegal occupation, and a lasting end to the apartheid regime. The Palestinian people have dedicated their lives and their deaths to a free and liberated Palestine. We must honor their unwavering commitment by continuing to fight tirelessly for their justice and their freedom. It is the least that we can do. Thank you. Now I would like to invite a few community members to share their reflections. The first I'm honored to invite is Rimas Abdullah Diab. She is 10 years old and she has prepared a few words for us.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rimas Abdullah Diab and I'm from Palestine. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون. صدق الله العظيم. Beloved Gaza, every atom of blood given to you is from our hearts. Our hearts are with you, beloved. In Gaza, not blood is bleeding, but all hearts are bleeding in disappointment. The Arabs has been disappointment. All Gaza, be patient. Be patient, for manhood was not created without you.
Thank you, Rimas. Next, I'd like to call Asia Noor, who'll be reading a poem called The Body Called Home. Asia.
I'm going to be sharing a poem called This Body Called Home. Have I become a dichotomy of their discussion? My body utters a language in this foreign body of an invaded soul. My nurturing mother tongue, now the nukba of my once free soul. I, now alive with grief more obvious on my face. But it's my blood stain on everything colonizers replace. My once house Arabia is no longer home, because to be from Palestine but not in Palestine is a burden hard enough. We now branded refugees all know. In this body, I remember the testimony of the roots of the olive tree as they became the roots in this body. Implanted in me is the depths of activists hollowing the message merely a whisper to the various loud screams. In this body, they have debated my livelihood. Jerusalem, I miss you. You are where I am alive. Have they forgotten? Don't they know that Gaza is free? It's me who's fleeing. They may own the sea, but it's we who prey on the rubble. My knees remember pressing against it, calling to God. It is here the highest, don't you see? On the day of judgment, who will they call to intercede?
Thank you, Yusra. Thank you, Asya. Next, I would like to call Yusra Matari, who will be giving a personal reflection.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Yusra Matari. I don't have much to answer. It's more stream of consciousness and raw emotion, so forgive me for any pauses or disorganization. But I wanted to talk about how last year, November 9th, 2023, actually went to the silent rally that was organized by PACC, and I had to have the heavy task of telling everyone about the murder of my cousin, Musab Matari. He was shot in Beit Adnan, that's the village we come from, by the IDF for doing absolutely nothing other than being Palestinian. What happened after November 9th, a few days later, just to add insult to injury, the IDF then kidnapped his father, Mujahid Matari, and his brother, Mohammed Matari. And that is the barbarism that we're dealing here with when we're talking about the IDF. So not only did they deprive of a mother of her son by shooting him in the back and executing him extrajudicially for no reason, they then took away their right to mourn. Of course, we all know who else would not allow people to have a funeral and just time to feel the pain of losing a son, a 20-year-old son. His brother was returned to the family about 2 weeks later with broken ribs and difficulty breathing. But we say as Palestinians, alhamdulillah, that he was returned, because we know with Israel that's not a guarantee. His father was kept 7 more months, and he was returned to us in June of this year. And we can only imagine what he faced in the Israeli prisons and what they did to him. Now, I also want to talk about the children of Gaza, the people that we think about the first thing when we open our eyes in the morning and the last thing before we close our eyes at night. We think about them every day. When Gaza was being assaulted in 2014, I was 10 years younger, and I just wanted to close my eyes and hope it will be over. This time around, I think from the very first week, it just felt different. And I didn't want to close my eyes. I wanted to bear witness. I wanted to look at the face of every child when they are missing limbs or they are no longer moving, and I wanted to remember their features, because I want to bear witness when I go to God. I want to tell him what I saw. And what those martyrs saw, they are now with God, and they get to tell him. But I also like to picture them, not just how they looked when they died, but I like to picture them in heaven. Just a couple of days ago, when the journalist Ismail al-Ghoul was targeted and killed, there was also a little boy who was near to the car that was on a bicycle, and he was just passed away on the bicycle, still riding it. And I like to imagine him in heaven, still riding his bicycle, still playing with the other children of Gaza. Now, the Israeli leaders, they call us barbarians, animals, children of darkness. But who's truly the children of darkness? Who truly are the ones who are barbaric? Isn't it the ones who commit crimes against humanity, who murder innocent men, women, and children, who starve and destroy and displace innocent people, who deny the most basic human rights to people? Those are the true barbarians. But we know that God did not make a mistake when he created the Palestinians and put them on Palestinian land. We don't use the term that we are the chosen people, but every single person that's on this earth was chosen by God. God made no mistake when he created us, not a single one of us. But I do think about the little girl who had burns all over her body, who was stuck in a hospital bed, screaming for her mom. And that night, I just curled up in bed, just thinking about the fact that her mom was not going to come, because her mom didn't make it. And not any other family member made it. She was the last surviving member of her family. So that is what I think about when I think of, okay, do I want to give up and just lay here and be in pain and mourn? Because it has been 300 days of mourning, of sadness, of just utter pain. I think it's easy to give up and give into that despair. And it's okay to let yourself feel the pain. But we have to take heart, and we have to know and be proud that we stand on the right side. We stand on the right of justice. We stand with the innocent. And that means something no matter what. And just like right now, we are standing here commemorating 300 days of genocide. In hopefully, inshallah, a very short time, we're going to be commemorating the independence of Palestine. We're going to be commemorating the success of liberation of Palestine. We're going to, all of us, meet in Palestine without the rifles of our oppressors pointed at our faces. As long as there is Palestinian blood flowing through our veins, as long as every drop of Palestinian blood is a prick in the eye of the oppressor, we have not lost. And so do not lose hope, and do not stop fighting. So inshallah, I get to see all of you in our homeland. And for those of you who are not Palestinian, we welcome you to our homeland. Because as Palestinians, that's what we are. We are generous, we are welcoming, and we love to show everybody what it truly means to be Palestinian, to love our olive trees, to be one with nature in Palestine, to take care of our children. It's not how they portray us. And I thank everybody who shows up for Palestine, especially if you're not Palestinian. You don't have to. You do it because you know justice and you have humanity. The last 300 days made me worry that humanity is dead. I always knew the lack of humanity that Israel had. I've seen it with my own eyes. They're evil. I have had rifles pointed at me. I've been spit at by the IDF. I have been cursed at. I've been treated like an animal, like garbage, but I still kept my dignity, and we will always keep our dignity. But inshallah, we will return to a place where everybody is created equal, where nobody has to fear that if their child is going to the store that they might not return because they're going to get shot because they're Palestinian. So thank you, everyone. Please, please do not give up the fight. It's okay to curl up and cry. God knows I do it almost every single day. And inshallah, we'll be crying tears of happiness because of our liberation and not because of all this pain. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusra. Now I'd like to call one of our community members who'll be reading a poem by Mus'ab Abu Tawha, who is actually from Gaza. He did evacuate and is free now, but he's been writing beautiful poetry, so she'll be sharing his words.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Fatima, and today I'll be reading a poem called We Deserve a Better Death. We deserve a better death. Our bodies are disfigured and twisted, embroidered with bullets and shrapnel. Our names are pronounced incorrectly on the radio and TV. Our photos, plastered onto the walls of our buildings, fade and grow pale. The inscriptions on our gravestones disappear, covered in the feces of birds and reptiles. No one waters the trees that give shade on our graves. The blazing sun has overwhelmed our rotting bodies.
Thank you, Fatima. Musab Abu Talha, the poet who wrote that poem, spent 30 days trapped in one of the Israeli jails, and he made it out alive, but many others did not. So now I'd like to call Maryam Shara to share a few words by Walid Dakar, one of Palestine's very famous political prisoners who died this year. He was terminally ill with cancer. He spent decades in an Israeli prison, and even after his death, they held his body.
Sorry, everyone. I write to a child yet unborn. I write to an idea or a dream that intentionally or unintentionally frightens the jailer. Even before becoming a reality, I write to any child. I write to my child that not has been born yet. I write to the birth, milad, of my future. This is how we want to name our child. And this is exactly how I would like for the future to recognize us. Will I stop dreaming? I'll continue to dream despite this cruel reality. I'll search for a meaning, for life, despite what I have already lost. They dig ancestor cemeteries, searching for delusional authenticity. While we search for a better future for our grandchildren, one certain to come. Salam milad, salam my dear.
So I'd like to call our Executive Director, Rania Mustafa, to share a few words.
Alaikum, marhaba, welcome everyone. So at first I wasn't going to say anything because I think the reality is that we're all at a loss of what to say. And not because there aren't words to say, but because we've said all the words to say. And we've been saying them over and over again for the last 10 months now. And the reality is that we've been going through 300 days of collective grief. And I don't think we all really comprehend what that is and what that means and what that's done to our bodies and to our beings and to who we are, and has transformed us to who we will be and who we'll become. There's been 40,000 people killed. The numbers are closer to 200,000. The reality is, and if you hear from anyone, that the numbers that are being counted are the numbers of people who are directly get killed from a missile in that instant. Now, if somebody the next day dies from an infection, from an amputated arm, an amputated leg, they are not counted. They're not from that 40,000. If somebody, like myself, who's expecting, who's pregnant, dies in childbirth, doesn't have the proper care that they need throughout childbirth and throughout their pregnancy, dies. If their child is born to a world where they don't have the proper care and dies, they're not counted in that 40,000. And this is what we need to reflect on, is that people may not see our humanity, but we have that humanity, and we have to realize and relate to this reality. I had a little bit of a health crisis, I want to say, the last few months, and all I could think about the entire time was if I was in Gaza, I would be dead. Because they don't have proper health care, they don't have proper access to medicine, they don't have what we all basically need as humans. And to the point where I could not breathe, and it was difficult for me to breathe. And with every breath, all I could think about was our brothers and sisters in Gaza. Because my breath is not more valuable than their breath. And my existence is not more valuable than their existence. And my being alive is not more valuable or needed than they are. And I think the reality is that a lot of us, honestly, are numb. and we don't know how to feel. We don't know where to turn. But I want to challenge everybody to take that second and find, what is that relation? What am I getting that they're not getting? Even down to our American privilege. My cousin, Ibn Khali, was taken by the IDF about a month ago now. We don't know where he is. We don't know how he's doing. We don't know what's going on with him. And we don't know when he's going to get out. But the one thing that immediately hit me was our American privilege. That I was able to grow up here, that I'm able, when I feel sick, to go to a doctor. When I have an opinion, I can voice it. When in reality, they're just struggling to live, whether it be in Gaza or in the West Bank or in 1948. And I think we need to really take that moment and find that connection that's keeping this reality happening and going, and understanding that it may be 300 days of genocide, but like Yusra said, that means we're one step closer to liberation. That means we're one step closer to freedom. And I want to share on a hopeful note that we've been having our PAC Summer Fun program at PAC, and it's been so hopeful, and I encourage everybody to come check it out. Seeing young generation come and reconnect with their Palestinian identity. Even my daughter, for example, when this first started, we always say Free Palestine at home, and we're always chanting, and we're always doing all these things. When it first started, she was scared. And when we'd be outside, if her brother said Free Palestine, she'd shush him and say, no, like, who's listening? Who's going to attack us? Who's going to hurt us? But now, 300 days later, she's screaming Free Palestine on top of her lungs. She's 6, by the way, so we're not talking about an adult. She's screaming Free Palestine on top of her lungs. Her brother, who's 3, joins her in random chants. And I see it in the 70 kids that we have in our program, that their confidence is increasing. And they're saying 300 days, doesn't matter when, we're going to keep shouting on the top of our lungs until we see freedom. And that is what we have to keep in mind. And that's why we can't lose hope. Because that's what is the way we're going to lose everything in the end, is if we lose hope, if we don't take the time to rest and rejuvenate and figure out how can we keep this going for a long term, until one day, like Yusra said, we're gathering here, not only here, all Clifton, Patterson, all of New Jersey, we're gathering here to celebrate a free Palestine. We cannot give up hope, we cannot stop acting, and we need to keep going. So with that, I just want to challenge everybody, and we've been saying this for the last 300 days, but really ask yourself, what can I do to bring us closer to liberation? It's not when, it's not if it's going to happen. Liberation is going to happen. And you're either part of that or you're left behind. And we have to figure out how can we, and many generations later, when we're talking about an occupied Palestine, we tell them, how did we help dismantle this occupation? Thank you.
Thank you, Rania. Before we end with our dua, and I'd like to call Sheikh Qatanani to share a few words, I just want to end with the last words, one of the last posts that was made by the Jazeera correspondent Ismail Al-Ghul, who was just murdered, I want to say yesterday because the days all blend together. This was the last post he made to one of his colleagues. And before I share it, I want to just say, for 300 days now, Ismail Al-Ghul was covering every single atrocity. He was there every single day. He and all of the other journalists in Gaza would say, we are starving just like our people, but we're not going to leave. We're going to keep telling the truth. He said, let me tell you, my friend, that I no longer know the taste of sleep. The bodies of children and the screams of the injured and their blood-soaked images never leave my sight. The cries of mothers and the wailing of men who are missing their loved ones never fades from my hearing. I can no longer bear the sound of children's voices from beneath the rubble, nor can I forget the energy and power that reverberates at every moment, turning into a nightmare. It is no longer easy for me to stand before the rows of coffins, which are locked and extended, or to see the dead people, more than the living, who are fighting death beneath their homes, not finding a way out to safety and survival. I am tired, my friend. He was tired, but he did not stop. He did not stop telling the truth. He did not stop fighting for Gaza and for Palestine. And inshallah, we will continue to do that until we all see a free Palestine. Now to end us off, I'd like to introduce Sheikh Hatanani.
May Allah bless you, Basma, Rania, and please give them a round of applause, please. Thank you very much, my daughters. May Allah bless you, our sons, our brothers and sisters. And please, let us also thank all voices for peace. The Jewish voice for peace, thank you very much. Thank you. We thank you for being with Palestinians. We thank you to stand up in the right place. Thank you very much for standing against the 300 days of genocide. Thank you. We thank the Christian voice for peace and for Palestine. Thank you very much, all Christians who are working for peace, who are standing for justice. We thank all voices who are loudly saying free, free Palestine. My brothers and sisters, we will end with prayers, but let me say some words before. Among these more than 40,000 names, 20 names of my family members who had been killed in the first week in October. You can say the second week in October. 20 of my family members among these names, and many others had been killed after from different situations. I myself have more than 25 family members who are in the jail in the West Bank. My brother, 5 of my nephews, 10 of my cousins, or 15. They are suffering every moment, day and night. Now, Gaza had been demolished, destroyed, bombarded completely. More than 85% of homes and houses had been destroyed. There is no life in Gaza. But what is very, very bad, and maybe the English language doesn't help me to say what I want to say, so please forgive me. Unfortunately, our government here in America supports the genocide in Gaza and Palestine. In our tax money, they help the occupation to kill more and more of children. What is very bad and very ugly and very disgusting, when we see our congressmen and women standing, clapping for the killer, for the war crime, genocide criminal, Netanyahu. This is very disgusting. Very, very disgusting. Where is the humanity? We are the generation who witnessed all these massacres, genocides, killing children, and we don't see humanity standing for themselves, for humanity. I know that people in general are good and they don't accept genocide or killing each other. But unfortunately, we have the wicked people and the evils are working against the humanity, against children, against women. We have 60,000 pregnant women in Gaza. Nobody is looking for their needs. May Allah bless you, Radia. I know, what does it mean, 60,000 pregnant sister, women, mothers who are pregnant and they don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have medicine, they don't have any support. Can you imagine that? Do you think the White House people have hearts to see the suffering of children and women? Do you remember the the daughter Hind in her car. Do you remember her? Who remember Hind? We know Hind when she was in the car for many days, crying, fearing, scared, very scared, and asking for help. She did not have any kind of help and support. So please, my brothers and sisters, pray for more than 40,000 martyrs and shuhada in Gaza. Pray for the children of Gaza. Pray for the women of Gaza. Pray for people to understand that their neglectation for Gaza is very bad for them in this world and the hereafter. We believe justice will prevail. Justice will win and Palestine will be free. I am sure about that. Because this is the nature of this world. Allah created this world on the right, straight path that justice will win. And the people together, when they are united, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will support them and help them. So please, let us pray for the Shuhada of Gaza. Let us pray for our brothers and sisters in Al-Quds, Jerusalem, and in Jenin and Tul Karim and everywhere. Pray for people to come together as one family of Adam and Eve, not to hate each other, to love one another, to work for each other and with each other for justice and peace. Pray for your neighbor. Pray for people who are near you, to visit you, to visit them, to be together as one community and one humanity. Pray for Palestine to be free and liberated from all types of aggression, oppression, and occupation. Pray for our children to understand the truth and to work for the truth and to be instruments of the truth and justice and peace for the humanity. Pray for all people to understand the situation and to know the truth as a truth, to know the false as a false, and to work for the truth and for justice. Let me pray in Arabic and to send that message to all my people, that all Gazan people, we are with you, we love you, we don't forget you, and you will never be forgotten. اللهم نجي أهلنا في غزة. اللهم فرج كربة أهلنا في غزة وفلسطين. اللهم أزل الغمة عن البشرية كلها، وحقق لنا الأمن والأمان والسلم والسلام، وأزل الاحتلال والظلم والظلام والفساد. اللهم إنك أعلم بنا منا، وأنت أعلم من هو على الصراط المستقيم ومن هو في ضلال مبين. يا الله ارحم شهداءنا، أطفالنا، نساءنا، ارحم من مات واجعله مشعل حياة ونور وهداية وتحرير للإنسان والأرض والأسرى والمسرى والقدس يا رب العالمين. آمين آمين آمين. جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Shafna. Everyone should have now received the candle. We're going to be just lighting these in honor of all of the victims and all of the martyrs and all of the Palestinian political prisoners that sit in Israeli jails. We hope for the freedom of Palestine and the freedom of every Palestinian political prisoner. As we pass these around, we ask people to bring pieces of children's clothing with them. I know a few people did. As we light our candles together, we're going to be hanging those in honor of every child that has been wrongfully killed by Israel this year and every year before this. As we do that, if any community member would like to come share a few words, we are leaving it open for anyone that would like to do that now. We will be spreading lighting the candles and giving it to each other. Unfortunately, because of the wind, the candles aren't lighting, but thank you all of you for coming. Thank you for those of you who've donated. Please just make a silent dua or a prayer, however you can, before you leave today. And we thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Because people ran up to the top. It was like she just sprayed them. Oh, look, they're right over there. Outside. Just dragged her out of like fun. Everyone who was walking. Yes. She's great everywhere. She's like, she, you know, she's known. Face, yeah, like she's Go ahead.